If you are somebody who right now is thinking, oh man, like I don't have a C200, I don't have a Red Epic camera, all I have is this cheap little DSLR camera, I can't make good videos, you are absolutely wrong. And we're gonna talk about how to get the best out of cheap DSLR footage. And we're also gonna talk about why you should probably consider not upgrading your camera. So let's get into it. So when I was first starting out, the camera that I use on pretty much every single video shoot was not a video camera. It wasn't a Canon C200, it wasn't even a Canon 1DX. At that point, I was shooting on a Nikon D750, which, as you know, Nikons aren't really specifically made for video, and neither was this Nikon D750, but that's the camera I started my career with, and I could guarantee that I could still make a really awesome video using that camera today. So that footage that you just saw in the intro was from that Nikon D750, and that was footage that I shot roughly around 3 years ago. Not quite 3 years, but right at the beginning when I was starting training videos, that's when I was using that camera, shooting that footage that you saw. If I didn't sell that camera and I still had it, I would definitely try to make a video with that, and just to show you guys that it's how possible it is to make a really good looking cinematic video with that camera today. But unfortunately I sold it, so we're gonna talk about the footage that I had shot back then when I had an even less understanding of how to make a good video, but the footage still came out really great. That Nikon D750 is what got me the start of my career. It was what I was filming my first paid videos on, and what led me to the point I am in my career today. And like I said, that camera is not made for videos. It is made for photography, but still here I am today in a career I love because I just started making videos with this camera. I wasn't worried that it wasn't a video camera. I wasn't worried that it wasn't a Canon C200. It was just something for me to get started with. There's also nothing spectacular about the Nikon D750 when it came to video. It didn't shoot in 4K. It didn't have great autofocus. It didn't have great dynamic range, but it was still a camera. And if you follow the same video principles that you do for any other video camera, you're gonna get a good cinematic picture out of whatever camera that you're using. So if you are sitting there like, oh man, like if I had that camera that that person had, I'd be able to make way better videos like they are. If you're sitting there thinking right now, ask yourself 4 questions before you move on and try to upgrade your camera. Ask yourself these questions. Are you properly exposing for a cinematic image? Do you understand all the properties of lighting? Do you understand how to properly compose an image? And do you actually know how to color grade? If you answer no to any of these questions I just asked you, the problem's not with the camera. The problem is probably with you. You're not taking the time to actually learn how to be a cinematographer. You just wanna rely on the gear and just like dive right into it, and you can't do that. It's a learning process that you have to repeat over and over and over again. And once you checked all the boxes for all those questions and you can confidently say yes to all 4 of those questions that I just asked you, yes, maybe it's time for you to spend a little money and upgrade your camera. I'm not gonna go into how to properly expose. I'm not gonna go into how to properly light, how to properly color grade, how to properly compose an image, because I've made a few videos on that already, and there's plenty of videos out there on the internet already that you can check out and that do a great job of explaining those things. So if you don't know how to do any of those things, you need to take the time to learn and practice each and every one of them before you can start blaming your camera and the equipment, because the problem is you. So please, for the love of God, if you don't have a super high-end camera, do not let that stop you from going out and shoot, because you can make epic images with what you have. Even if you just have like a tiny Canon Rebel, like every other starter in the world, that's a good enough camera today in 2019 to make a good video. If your camera doesn't shoot 4K, who cares? Like, most people can't tell the difference between a 4K image and a 1080 image. And going back to the idea that you're probably just posting that video to the internet, like, nobody's watching on a huge screen. Everyone's watching on their iPhone or their laptop, and those are small screen. So 1080p is muy bueno for, you know, what you're shooting for. So I won't leave you completely hanging. I'll give you a few tips for you to hang on to of how you can you know, make your image look better out of your cheap DSLR. So here are a couple tips, some things that I used to do to try to get the most out of my DSLR. First thing, expose properly. Make sure you're not clipping on one end or the other, because when you go to color grade that footage, you don't want to have lost data that you can't recover, because it's going to be harder to recover that data out of a DSLR image than it is a cinema camera. So make sure you are nailing exposure properly, not clipping the whites or the blacks. Really learn how to color grade. Don't just kind of just like go off what like other like YouTubers are doing or anything. Actually learn from people who color grade how to color grade. And color grading is also just gonna like add so much more production value to every video you ever make going forward. So definitely like really learn how to color grade. Lighting wise, I would say try to shoot in ambient light. Your cheap DSLR isn't gonna have the most amount of dynamic range. It's not gonna be able to capture the super bright whites and the super dark blacks in the same image. So make sure you're shooting in light that's like pretty mellow, maybe sunrise, sunset, late in the day. Don't shoot at noon where the sun's super bright directly overhead and you're gonna get harsh shadows, because your DSLR footage isn't gonna be able to handle that extreme dynamic range. Then another thing I used to do whenever I was shooting on my DSLR, I would throw it on a glide cam. And there's two reasons I would do this. I would throw it on a glide cam because A, the glide cam's heavy, and if you put the DSLR on top and you can just like hold the glide cam wherever you want, it's gonna get rid of a lot of like the unnecessary jitters that you're gonna get that you see in like ugly DSLR footage. So that's gonna give it like a more like smooth handheld, like more cinematic motion. And also like it's just gonna be like easy to transition to smooth like gimbal type footage that you wanna get out of the glide cam. Glide cam's like the greatest tool of all time. Super underrated that more people need to consider adding to their gear list, because I still use this all the time. I used it 100% of the time when I was starting out, but glide cam, super trusty, super reliable. Get yourself a glide cam if you wanna get a glide cam, because it's awesome. Have you ever heard of Pro Mist filters? Well, I probably talked about it in a video because I did. Check out this video if you haven't seen it. But thread on a Pro Mist filter on the front of your lens, and that's gonna give your DSLR a little more creamy and softer image, and that's gonna make it look a little more cinematic than the sharp DSLR footage that's probably coming out of your camera. So yeah, try out a Pro Mist filter, and again, check out the video that I made about Pro Mist filters if you don't really understand what they are or what they do. Then finally, learn how to actually compose. Watch movies, watch TV shows, watch how the best cinematographers frame and compose shots. See that they're not all the time shooting on an 18mm lens. See that sometimes they're rocking 85s and up to shoot their images. Don't just like go off of what like, you know, a YouTuber's like filming B-roll with. Actually try to understand like how to properly compose a shot. So yeah, before you like start worrying about not having the necessary gear to film something great, stop right now. Ask yourself the 4 questions that I asked you at the very beginning of the video. And if you say no to any of those questions, it's not the gear. It's you. You need to get better as a cinematographer. Learn how to really film properly. And you know, people ask me, how am I going to get clients? How am I going to get bigger gigs? It all starts with answering those questions for yourself and actually learning all those topics and becoming a master of the craft. Because if you master all those things, you're gonna make awesome projects, and those awesome projects are gonna get you awesome clients. And yeah, like I'm still learning every single day. Like the best decision I ever made was not buying a Red camera or an Alexa and spending $40,000 on a camera, because I'm getting so much out of my C200 that I only spent $7,500 on, and I'm getting a ton of value out of that camera, and the difference in quality does not make up for the price, in my personal opinion, especially for the skill level I'm at. I'm still really learning how to master all the fundamentals of cinematography. So yeah, all right, I'm starting to ramble, so I'm just gonna say goodbye right now. Thanks guys, see you next time, bye.